if you had to give advice to a new contractor, where would you point them?
How do you learn? Because we all learn different ways.
Do all the things that can help you build your business without paying somebody else. Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stearns. This episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors at Roofer. If you need end-to-end sales solutions such as instant roof measurements, clean and pristine proposals that are going to give your prospects no choice but to buy from you, hit up Roofer. Today we've got a very special guest, Mr. Andy Neer. What's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, thanks for joining us right before the holiday. I had the pleasure of making your acquaintance at RoofCon, and you had some stories.
Yeah.
Let's start off by telling the audience who you are and what you do.
I'm a commercial roofing contractor in West Michigan, and I've been in business for about 25 years. Grew up on a farm, but my best friend convinced me to go to trade school as a 13th year student after we graduated. And so that's how I got into construction trades. I started doing lots of different kinds of construction. And then by the age of 23, I started my own business and did exterior remodeling, decks, windows, roof, soffit, siding. And then over the course of the next 5-6 years, just started specializing more and more until I did nothing but roofing, because that's where I made the most money. And that's where most of the guys didn't want to mess with roofs. Mm-hmm. And so there was less competition. Plus, I noticed when the economy swung down, people still had to do their roofs, but they weren't doing their decks anymore. They were holding off on their siding and their windows, but the roof still had to get done. So started specializing in roofing. And then about 10 years after that, I started doing small commercial, and never really, like a lot of guys, it didn't really occur to me that, yeah, it's better money, but didn't occur to me that it was different in a big aspect. And so about 2012, I started dabbling in coatings. I kind of fell into that by accident because a buddy of mine wanted me to help him start his business, and he wanted to do something that didn't have a lot of competition. So we got him into coatings. And then after about 2 or 3 years of that, he wanted to go back to what he was comfortable with, shingles and metal. So I bought all his equipment and his clients and everything, and we kept going forward because I knew, and I'm probably alone in this, but liquid applied roofing material is one of the mainstreams of the future, I think, for roofing. Manufacturers are making it easier for contractors to install it. Part of the manufacturing process is put into the roofer's hands, which makes the project more economical for the building owner. And so I started adding that line to my business. And then that side grew and grew and grew. And like I said, there wasn't a lot of competition. So I focused most of my energy on that. And so 2017, I was running a fairly big crew, actually 3 crews in the company. And our revenue grew, but it was just getting to be more and more of a headache. And I was trying all, processes and putting all these things into place, but I just was not a good manager. I was not a good leader. And tried to hire salespeople, that failed. Tried to hire a production manager, that failed. And not that they weren't good people, but I didn't have the right process for them to step into. And so that kind of fell apart. And so 2018, I decided to eliminate our residential division. I asked myself a simple question. Where do I make most of my money with the least amount of effort? And it was always a commercial job. And so we eliminated our residential division. We got rid of about 2/3 of our employees. And now we're back restructuring, rebuilding that back again and growing with that model. So just commercial roofing. Most of our stuff is liquid applied, but we do TPO, EPDM. We just finished an EPDM job. But what we do is liquid applied in-house, and everything that's not liquid applied, which when I say liquid applied, spray foam and coatings, anything that's not liquid applied, we sub it out outside of the business.
That's amazing. So what happened to your closing percentages when you introduced liquid applied roofing?
Closing percentages. I typically close about 40%. But because I'm the only salesman, and sometimes I like to be transparent here. Sometimes I get lost in micromanaging sometimes, which takes my focus off sales. And I have to be honest with you. Sometimes I've dropped jobs because, I'm out there pounding the pavement. I'm following up. And then I have a week or two where I'm like, oh, we got a big important job here. And I got to make sure I'm checking with the foreman. I got to make sure I'm getting pictures. I got to go visit the job because it's a unique one. And I take my focus off those sales. And all of a sudden I'm like, crap, I just lost that other job because I wasn't following up with them. I pushed another appointment back because I'm trying to nurse this other job. And so I think a lot of contractors are like me, where they're the owner and they're probably the only salesman, or they're the salesman that's doing the most sales, and they get a distraction in the company. Whether it could be as simple as a truck breaking down, and how are we going to get that truck back on the road? Or it could be, we want to buy another building, or we want to, like in my case, we had this. Sometimes we get projects that are like, oh, it's special, it's unique. It's in my own neighborhood, so I've always wanted to do that building, and we take this special, unhealthy focus on it, and then lose focus of what's going on. So I did a big job in Chicago this year, and it's kind of out of my area, but that took me out of my game for several weeks, and I was just focused on getting that job done. I wanted to make sure my crew, because it was just a little bit above the head of my crew's ability, so I wanted to make sure I was there just so nothing went wrong. But I lost 3 weeks of just not focusing on other clients and other jobs and other. I wasn't in my office for 3 weeks, so it's like it screws me up. So, and I think a lot of guys, I told you I had my own podcast, and what I like to show on my podcast is, I'm not a $10 million guy. I'm not doing that, but I do like to take several months off in the winter. I do like to have plenty of family time with my family, and I like to have my business be a support for the life I want to live, not a handcuff, not a golden handcuff. And so, but I think a lot of guys are like me, where they started the business, they're the founder, they have the vision, but they don't know how to get that into the next level to create new leaders, whether it's salesmen or production managers or whatever it is. So there are a lot of groups out there. There are a lot of programs, and I'm a contractor, so I get it. I was around 20 years ago when there was nobody to help you. Nobody. And so I use a platform right now where I help train a lot of other contractors. And I'm not training them to be $10 million guys, because I'm not there yet, right? So, but I'm training them to get started in commercial roofing, primarily liquid applied. So everything that I do in my business is an open book to them. They learn that way. And I've had several guys tell me, it is great to have a resource like yourself where they can ask me questions they don't know. They can get on a video call with me and ask me about a repair. They can ask me about how to write an estimate. They can ask me how to advertise. And it always makes me smile, because that brings me some fulfillment. But and I always remind them, like 20 years ago when I was starting, I didn't have anybody to ask. My cousin ran a very successful roofing company, but I couldn't just go ask him, hey, Sam, how do you write an estimate? Hey, Sam, how should I bid this unique detail on this job? The only way I could get information from him is to watch him, watch what he did. And once in a while, the customer would show me his estimate. Oh yeah, you bidding against this other guy, and this is his estimate. And I'd be like, I don't know if any other contractor's ever gotten another contractor's estimate, especially when you're new. You're like, whoa, this is like highly classified information. And I just seen into this guy's world. And so sometimes I'd actually save some of those estimates. I'd have 2 or 3 of my competitors' estimates in a drawer off to the side and be like, okay, I'm going to change my wording because his wording and his estimate sounds a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
But that's how I learned 20 years ago back then. But now some of these young guys coming up, they've got so many agencies that want to help them that it's almost the other way around. Now they're like, whoa, what? Why do you want to help me? Like,
right.
I'm not giving you money because you can't prove results. You can't prove that, you know, what you're going to do works for me. And I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but this is heavy on my heart because I can tell you from my experience, it's not that we're afraid that I'm just going to pick on somebody, for example, like Smash Company or Ryan Groth's Sales Transformation Company. You know, these guys that are helping build process and build companies. And I don't think it's not contractors. We're not afraid that they're not going to do their job. We're afraid that we're too dumb to grasp it and to implement it. I think we're afraid of ourselves. We're afraid that we're going to go sit through a session and spend $10,000 or whatever it is, and we're not going to be able to implement it and like get any ROI out of it. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction. And the insight that you shared previously, I want to take a minute to discuss, right? Because you said that you struggled, you know, you're wearing a lot of hats, and you're right. I've dealt specifically with roofing contractors for the last 6-7 years, and the majority of them are, you know, and I guess you could kind of blanket that out to most entrepreneurs, right? You're fucking wearing a ton of hats and kind of getting yourself out of that to where you're starting to delegate and understanding of what that looks like to do it effectively. I mean, shit, dude, that's that's an ever learning process for everybody, I think, right? But the fact that you can recognize that is huge, right? Yeah, so that's really good. As far as the resources, it's really interesting that you bring that up because, like you said, 20 years ago, you got your hands on an estimate and you're like, this is the fucking holy grail. I'm going to get so much out of this. And now there's so much information everywhere where it's like, who do I choose? What do I consume? Even free information, right? You could talk about a podcast. You could talk about a YouTube channel, Facebook groups. It's like, man, it's information overload. And like, how would you, if you had to give advice to a new contractor, where would you point them? Or how would you tell them to go about understanding where they should invest their time as far as growing?
Well, first of all, you got to find out exactly what you're looking for. You can't just be like, hey, I started a business. What things should I know? Like I see guys do that. You know, they get on Facebook and they're like, I just opened my business 6 weeks ago. Tell me all the things I need to know. And you can't just shoot like a shotgun thing like that, because what'll happen, you're going to get a lot of responses. You're going to get a lot of responses from guys that are like just a little bit ahead of you that are not successful. And you might get a couple of good pointers, but for the most part, you're going to get people say, do good work and get referrals. Print some business cards and get your name out there. Like, I mean, it's bullcrap advice. But if you want to get specific, you got to ask specific questions. And so you're going to want to ask for referrals or some kind of reference to somebody that's doing exactly what you're doing. And if you're on social media at all, you've probably seen these people around, but you might be too scared to ask for them. Maybe you see a big shot in your area. He might be in your state, or he might just be on a forum that you're on, and you really look up to him, but you're like, man, you know, that John dude's not going to give me the time of day. I'm not going to reach out to him because maybe we're embarrassed. But I'll tell you, most guys, I'd say 99% of guys, if they're doing any kind of capacity, they're more than willing to share what they're doing. I mean, that's the thing about roofers, right? Or people guys in the construction industry, they like to brag a little bit. And so they don't mind sharing. I mean, they might not give you the secret sauce, but if you're just starting out and you look up to a guy, put some feelers out there on social media to say, hey, I'm looking to I'm in the Houston market and I'm looking to grow my company from 500,000 to 2 million. Who do you know that you could turn me on to get some advice or some help from somebody? And you're going to get some good solid names from people. Now, it's your job to do your due diligence to research these people and make sure that you're not hiring some coach that's been doing it for 6 months and he doesn't have any background on, you look in the internet and he doesn't have a Google page or he doesn't have any track record and he doesn't have any satisfied clients. You want to do your research to make sure that guy's solid. I just like to watch people and converse with them on social media for a little bit of time, a couple months, and see how they dialogue with me in the comment section and with other people. But
Yeah,
you don't want to be specific.
Yeah, never mind the guy that's telling you that he's going to get you 25 to 30 leads in your inbox. Just move on from that and try to spend your time elsewhere.
I never buy leads. I worked with somebody that taught me how to create my own leads because when you buy leads, as soon as you stop paying for leads, that pipeline shuts off. It's like a water spigot, right? As soon as you stop paying that monthly or weekly fee or whatever that fee is, it shuts off like a water spigot. But if you are doing your own leads, you're creating your own source of lead generation, you can take a week off, but it's still working for you.
Yeah, and what we do is, like at Ascend, we build like properties, like websites, right, that you own, and you've talked about like a long-term strategy like SEO to where that's less of that water spigot, right? So you want to perpetually or organically have traffic coming in where you're not paying Google for every single click, but that takes time. So usually you're going to do some sort of paid advertising. But I think that like that approach is best, and that's what I tell everybody, like especially when first starting, is like do all the things that can help you build your business without paying somebody else. There's a lot of things that you can do where you don't need me or anybody else to rely on to help. Now, here's the thing. That cookie jar only has so many cookies in it. And if you're looking to scale to 10, 15, 20 million, maybe you can get 4 to 6 million out of that cookie jar. Maybe it's $1 million, depending on what market you're in, right? There's a lot of variables, but always do everything that you can in your power to take control of generating opportunities for your company. Do you agree with that? Yeah. The reason I asked about closing percentages because I feel like it would make it much more accessible, and it's a great tool to have in the bag if you've got a commercial property and it's like, okay, you need 7 areas that are impacted based on wear and tear to be repaired. Full replacement, maybe the repairs are $30,000, the full replacement's $250K, or we can do this coating, right? And there's a 20-year warranty, there's this, there's that, and it's $85,000 or $120,000. It seems like a really nice, like good, better, best scenario for people to kind of fall into. Is that how it plays out, or am I wrong in assuming that?
Yeah, that's correct. But I think what some of us are missing is building that trust beforehand, and that trust could be as simple as them seeing you multiple times on your Facebook page. So one thing that and I think a lot of roofers, they leave their Facebook page up to their marketing guy to do, which I think a lot of copy, you can tell it's written by a non-roofer. It's written by a marketing guy, and you can tell. And that, I guess that's okay to some point, but I like to do a lot of videos on my marketing on my Facebook page that are from me. I'm the face of the company, and so I'm going to give you your listeners a good tip today that I use, and it's very easy to do it and implement it, and that is you want to put new content at least once a week. I'd like to say a couple times a week of what you're doing out on the job. Like what am I doing at Empire? And I get guys ask me all the time, like, man, like I do that. I showed the house. I just showed the job we finished. No. Customers don't want to see another roof. They see that driving on the road. And so I say, you got to give them some value. So what do I mean by that? Okay, let's say I'm getting called on a leak on a commercial roof today, and I show up and the drain hasn't been cleaned, and they got about 3 inches of water flooding the roof. And that is a great opportunity to get on Facebook and do, you can do a live, or you can just do a pre-recorded, doesn't matter. I like to do live because it makes me get to the point, because I know that I can't do it over and over again. So it forces me to get better. But you don't have to. If you feel a little bit nervous on video, just record it. But I use a 3-step process. That is, I make the video only about 1 to 2 minutes long. I get in the area where I'm working, and I say, hey, this is Andy with Empire Contractor. Just want to let you guys know what I'm working on today. Customer called me about, and I go through 3 things. What did the customer call me about? What did I find? Because that might be 2 different things. They might say, hey, it's leaking along the wall, or da, da, da. I'm like, no. When I get up here, I found out this drain's clogged, and I pull it out, and it's all the water's gushing down. And then the third thing is a solution. So what did they call me about? What did I find? And number 3, what's my solution? If you do that, every time you go out and do a repair or an inspection or an estimate, you're going to have unique content every time. Because today it's going to be a drain, tomorrow it's going to be a gutter, the next day it's going to be an HVAC unit, the next day it's going to be a metal trim. And you're going to start getting customers who are like, man, every time I get on here, Andy's adding value. Like, I learned something new from Andy. Like, every time I see his page come on. That also means people will be more likely to share your page or invite other people to your page because you add value. You're not just, hey, here's another roof we did, satisfied customer. Like, that's not adding value.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant approach too, right? Because anyone who's in your market, you're obviously getting the benefit of what you just talked about, but it's also building credibility in the sense of, like, we tailor our solution based on what your needs are. We don't make assumptions. We come out, give like an objective analysis, and then make sure that we put into action whatever the solution is that suits your building, right? And I think, like, I don't know, I would imagine that people that make the decisions on these facilities, they're really apprehensive in the beginning if they don't know somebody, just because of like the negative, I guess, reputation of contractors in general. I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but I think if you ask 100 homeowners like what they think of when they think of doing a roof, or commercial facilities managers, I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming positive relationship in their mind between the words like roofing and what they think.
Yeah. One of the most probably prestigious jobs that I did was a private country club a few years ago, where we did half the roof with TPO and half the roof was a liquid applied EPDM restoration. When the job was done, the building manager told me, he's like, we had 3 or 4 other guys bid on this job besides you. And he said, all of them talked bad about you, and they talked bad about your product. And he's like, and that just, he goes, nothing bothers me more than somebody that's trying to sell their product by tearing somebody else's product or our company down. He told me that story like 5 times through that process, and he even just told me again a couple weeks ago. I'm like, okay, Brett, I got it. But he's like, he's just like, you never once tore anybody else down. You never once tore another product or system down. You just, gave me the pros and cons. You laid it out.
Right.
And he said these guys would have been much better if, when I asked about coatings, if they would have said, hey, let's look into that, and we'll see what kind of options we can get, and instead of dogging everything. So just remember, this, if you got to use negative tactics to try to win a job, that might work on some customers, but that's the kind of customer you're going to get is a customer that's going to look at the negative aspects of certain things, and they're not as fun a customer to deal with.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sure there's a correlation between somebody who makes a decision based on those types of tactics and the quality of the customer that you're attracting, right? That's a really good point. Yeah, so don't be a shithead, right? Like, service the needs of your clients, right? Present things objectively. And here's the thing, in doing so, if there's another company that's not on the up and up, or that's provides subpar service, or whatever the case may be, like, that's going to bring itself to light organically just by virtue of your process and educating your customer, right? They're going to notice, like, they never talked about this. They didn't offer this. Why wouldn't they do that? And that doubt alone will likely be enough to differentiate you to where at least you're one of the front runners, if not the one that they choose, in my eyes, right? Man. So what is, if someone's transitioning into doing like fluid applied roofing, what's one thing that they need to be aware of going in?
Well, there's a lot of bad rap. The coating industry gets a lot of bad rap because of poor installations, and they're viewed as a Band-Aid. So there is a difference between coatings and liquid applied systems. Some people say they're one and the same, but when we talk about coatings, I generally think of them like, okay, you're going to buy a 5-gallon bucket of white stuff from a big box store, and you're going to slap it on. But a liquid applied system really is going to include several components. It's going to include a really, really stringent washing. Then it's going to have typically it's going to have a primer. It's going to have a base coat. It might have some fabric and base coat on the seams. It's going to have a flashing grade for the penetration. It's going to have a top coat. So I explain it to people more like, okay, are you going to use Mako to paint your car, where you just run it through this wash and they put a nice fresh coat of paint on? Or are you going to, you say you got a 67 Chevelle, are you going to actually have them strip it? You're going to have them fix the pot pinholes. You're going to have them put the epoxy and the fiberglass on and the Bondo, and then you're going to put the primer on, and you're going to do a full restoration. And that's really what a liquid applied coating is there's more steps to it. And I think the main reason why a lot of contractors fail in the liquid applied coatings market is because you're taking part of the manufacturing process out of the hands of the manufacturer and putting it in the hands of a roofer. So you've got the product like TPO and shingles and metal. They're all made at a manufacturer where they've got lots of processes. They've got several steps of quality control. They're meeting all this criteria before it goes out the door as an approved product, whether it's mill thickness and, the ingredients and all that stuff. Right. With coatings, they're taking that process out and sending it out in a barrel, and now the roofer's putting it on. And so, roofers, we typically don't have most of us don't have a lot of processes and all of these procedures into place to make sure that we're going to have a good product. So the two main reasons why coatings fail or liquid applied systems fail is because poor surface preparation. They don't, they don't wash it at all, or they just wash it with a power washer with not the right cleaning agent for that surface. And so you got to make sure that you're doing that correctly. And then the second thing is improper mill thickness. So you might wash it good, but they don't put enough mils on it. And so you've got to make sure that you get enough mils of coating on there. I'm almost embarrassed to say I've run across a lot of jobs that in that situation, they're supposed to have anywhere from 30 to 40 mils, and they only have 8 or 10. And I have to go back and tell the building owner, I know you just spent 40 grand on this project, but you're supposed to have X amount of mils here. You're supposed to have 40 mils in here, and you can see by the sample here, you got about 8. In fact, if I hold it up to the light, you can see pinholes through the coating.
So essentially, it's just spread way too thin for it to actually perform the function of what it's intended to do. And I'm sure, that may be intentional to pad margin. Maybe might be unintentional just because they don't know.
Yeah. Some of it is just mismeasuring, because when you're measuring and estimating and ordering material in liquid format, you're dealing with gallons, and you're dealing with how many gallons covers a square, as opposed to a shingle is a fixed shingle. It's already this bundle is going to cover this much area. Right. Yeah. Whereas coatings, it's like, oh shoot, we didn't order enough material. We're going to be half a barrel short. Well, we'll just stretch it out and make it work.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. I can imagine that would be a challenging transition coming from doing just like shingles, especially, or doing metal. All right, so we got to clean the surface, and we got to make sure that we're using the appropriate amount of mils to cover the roof in order for the efficacy of the liquid apply roofing to prove out. Those are two great tips. What was it like transitioning into commercial from somebody who's never done either? From the outside looking in, I feel like I'd be really nervous because like the great side is like commercial. I feel like is a lot of big money, but I feel like there's also a lot of vulnerability if something goes sideways. It's not a $8,000 or $10,000 loss if you fuck up a commercial roof and it's whatever 800 squares and you're a small business. I feel like that could be really crippling.
Well, first of all, you shouldn't be getting into territories you're not comfortable with. I definitely wouldn't be like, hey, I've been doing this for, I've literally seen guys get into their second or third job and they're like, yeah, I got this 400 square roof and it's, we got to tear off the TPO and the bed, you realize like this guy's in way over his head.
Right.
Now, the guy himself has to realize he's in way over his head. But some contractors get way optimistic. They're like, oh, I'll just get a sub for that. Or, it'll be fine. Or whatever. I don't know what they think. But, they see the money that could be made. And they don't realize that contracting at its very root, all contracting is making promises and fulfilling promises. And so if you don't think, if you don't have the training and the know-how to see all of the unknowns and all the risks involved, you're talking about somebody's business. I mean, it's one thing about somebody's home, and yeah, you can say they're, somebody's home is their castle, but somebody's business, that's how they make money. That's their livelihood. You cannot all of a sudden have this deluge of water come in and now they can't, their business is in uproar and now their employees can't work, their business can't perform. That's a big deal. So you can't take that lightly. Yeah. So I guess what I would say is know your limits, know what you're able to do and what not able to do. And how do you know that? Well, that would be my second thing would be, buddy up to a coach or a mentor or somebody that's already been there. A, you can ask them, hey, do you think this is over my head? And B, if it is a little over my head, do you think you can help me or walk me through it and know where my limitations are? And if they've been in the industry long enough, then they can tell you, hey, this is over your head, or, if you hire this crew or if you have this person help you, you could probably do it. But you definitely got to reach out to somebody, and it can't just be your manufacturer's rep. Okay, I've seen some manufacturer's rep give some bad advice just because they want to sell product, and
it's a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, conflict of interest. They want to sell some product, and at the end of the day, they really have no skin in the game.
Right. If that thing goes sideways, they got their commissions. And that's not to paint, reps in a bad way, but I mean, inherently in any type of sales where there's financial motivation for you to sell things and somebody's like, hey, should I buy this? There's a small percentage of salespeople that are going to be like, no, let me take a look and make sure that, if this thing goes sideways, you know how to get out of it and you're capable of, weathering that blow. I mean, some would argue it's not their responsibility to do that either, right? So what's your favorite type of roof to install or apply?
I don't know. They all have their unique scenarios, but for the last year, I've really liked doing spray foam and coating systems. Okay. We bought a spray foam rig a few years ago. I've been selling spray foam systems for about 12 years, but I always had a subcontractor do the foam because I didn't want to learn all of the nuances of a spray foam rig. It's pretty complicated. But I brought my son-in-law on a few years ago, and he wanted to learn how to run the rig. So we found a rig and we bought it. And I still to this day don't know how to run all of the gauges and the pressures and all that stuff. If he gets me ready and he puts the gun in my hand, I can spray. But Everything else, it's like running a rocket. To me, it's like running a rocket ship. I don't. I just need to go sell some more jobs. That's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
But as far as running the job and seeing it go down, I really love the spray foam system because it's kind of like artwork. I mean, you're creating slope, you're creating the system right in front of your eyes, and it's just really satisfying watching the foam go down.
You ever make videos about that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to go check them out because you explaining it seems satisfying. So I want to see it in action.
Okay.
Yeah. So you tell people about what you'd mentioned first and foremost. You'd mentioned about like having balance and not making it to a situation where you're handcuffed to your business, the golden handcuff that I think so many people fall into that trap, right? And I made a video yesterday or 2 days ago talking about like being aware of you're pursuing this great thing, which is your business, right? And you might be doing $100,000 a year in revenue. You might be doing $10 million a year, but you're going to be competitive and try to improve. And I think that might evolve over time as far as what that means to you. But how have you found, what is your effective way as far as accomplishing that balance, right? Because even I'm not perfect at it. I'm far from perfect. And I try to improve every day at it, is like where I'm putting my time and how much I'm focusing on this great thing that I'm building and how much time I'm spending with the people in my life that need me and that I need, right? I don't think it's always as easy as it's stated to accomplish that. Do you have any tips?
Well, a long time ago, I realized in order for me to provide the lifestyle that I want for my wife and family and I, it is my job to get smarter. I know that sounds really basic, but it's my job to read more, to do some self-development, to stretch myself, to find new boundaries and go past those boundaries. For a long, up until 10 years ago, I thought self-development was for, weirdos. I didn't like to read. I still don't like to read. I got to listen to stuff on Audible because when I read, I wouldn't say I have a reading disability, but like I'll read a line and then I'll read a second line and then I'm daydreaming already. So now I got to go back and read the second line and
Right.
It's very inefficient for me. So I find an Audible book is a lot easier for me. I can listen to it a little bit faster speed. I can listen to it while I'm driving. I can make bookmarks. And so I think one thing for contractors to realize is, how do you learn? Because we all learn different ways. I'm a visual learner. I'm a do it with my hands visual learner. Let me get into the nitty gritty of it so that I can learn. And you also got to realize, what are your weaknesses? What types of things are, no matter how much time you spend in them, are you not going to learn? Like accounting. For me, bookkeeping and accounting and data entry, screw that. I don't care how long I work on it. I'm not going to.
I'm with you.
Because I hate it. So I've got to be able to find people that are good at that. But as far as balance, I know it's not very popular to say in this day and age, but for the longest time, I wanted to retire my wife. She never worked while the kids were at home when they were really young. But then as soon as they all went to school, my wife was bored at home, so she got a job only to fill the time. But then we became dependent on that job, right? It had good benefits, and she only worked 30 hours a week, and it wasn't too bad of a trade-off. But then it was like, hey, we want to go on vacation. Well, I got to see if I got time, to take off. I got to see if I can get time off. And I'm like, we own a business. When I want to take a vacation, I don't want to have to ask anybody permission, even my wife's boss, And so,
especially my wife's boss.
That's right. And she had a nice cushy job. She worked with some women she liked. Didn't really care for the job, but she liked the ladies. But eventually, she's just like, is there a way that I can quit my job? And part of her is like, you kind of feel lazy saying that, or she felt kind of lazy saying that, because it's like, how do I contribute now? Like, she kind of felt like she lost her sense of identity if she didn't have a job. I'm like, honey, man, if you're a home and you're a great homemaker and you're taking care of the house's needs and you're taking care of the family's needs, and at this time the kids were already all out of the house, okay? But I'm like, if you do a great job of supporting me at home, I can triple down my efforts on what I do. And this day and age in 2022, that's unheard of because everybody preaches that women have to have their own career and they have to have their own independence and all this and stuff. But I've found when we work together as a team, we have a lot more freedom because, Sunday, my wife and I are taking about 9 days off. We're driving down to Miami. She doesn't like to fly, so when we can, should we drive? But we're going to go down to Miami, Trump Doral. Donald Trump has a golf course down there at Trump Doral. It's got the Blue Monster on it. It's a really beautiful golf course, and we're going to spend a week there. And funny thing is like we're going to drive back the following Sunday, but we don't really have an itinerary of when we have to be back. And you can't do that when she has another job or she has another career. Plus, I found like when she doesn't have another career, like she could be selling Mary Kay or doing some other thing, but like because she doesn't, we can both focus on Empire and what I'm doing in my business, and she can support that. It's a dynamic force, and you both can be focused on the same thing and pull together.
Yeah, that's good. I think obviously support from your partner in life is, beneficial in many ways. And the dynamic's going to look different for everybody. I think what's important is finding somebody, they say behind every strong man is a stronger woman. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I know my wife, man, she holds it down. She helps me in ways, and I would not be anywhere near where I am today without her. So yeah, find that dynamic, that partner that works for you, and figure out what that looks like, and then execute it. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. You get to go to Miami for a week, go golfing. That sounds fucking amazing. I'm kind of jealous, if I'm being honest right now. I'm a terrible golfer. I might shoot an 89, I might shoot a 107, and there's no rhyme or reason why either one of those things are going to happen the way they are. So it is what it is. You at RoofCon, you had talked about some things that literally put me into like damn near a full-blown anxiety attack. So tell me what else you like to do in your spare time.
Oh, in the wintertime, I like to go ice climbing. I think I might have shown you some pictures while I was down there. Funny how I got into that was I was at a sporting goods store one day about 12 years ago, and some dude in the aisle just started talking to me about camping, and then he said, "Oh, my cousin or whatever is going to go ice climbing next weekend," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he showed me a picture, and he's like, "Yeah, you just go down the road and sign up. They're taking on people up the excursions up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan." So I went and talked to my wife. I'm like, "Man, I got to find out what this is about. This sounds rad." So I went over there and didn't realize that I was going to end up being really good friends with that guy I talked to there named John. And he took me on an ice climbing trip up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. If most people don't know what that is, that's, you got Michigan here and then you got the Upper Peninsula up here. And we would climb right along the top of that in Lake Superior. And a few times we've gone to Canada. But I liked that first trip so much that I ended up staying up there over the weekend and staying on his second trip that he did, and then did that about 4 years in a row. And then one trip he got the flu while we were up there, and because I'd been on so many trips and had some training, I had the opportunity to be able to take some people out on a easy climb or a little easy expedition, and from there on out I started buying my own gear, and so now about once a year I take some small groups up and we go ice climbing.
So like, what, for those that don't know, like, what does that look like? Are you taking like a fucking sickle and slamming it into the side of a mountain and climbing up? Like what? That's
ice axe, and you got two of them. If you're not really secure on holding them, they have leashes that they can put on your arms so that if you drop them, because your arms do get weak after a while. And then you got what are called crampons that go on the bottom of your boots. You got special boots that kind of look like a skiing boot, and the crampons go on the bottom, and basically they're just a bracket with a bunch of knives sticking out of them that you can poke into the ice so you can climb with your axes and your knives and your feet. And then you have a climbing rope that goes up to an anchor at the top of the climb, and it comes back down to a person that's belaying you.
So any of the guys that have trouble getting their guys to be compliant with OSHA and roping in, send them out with Andy on the side of a mountain, get them accustomed to roping in.
Had one incident or injury, any incident like that, but it's always a little scary when you're 30, 40 feet above the ground. We've done climbs up to 300 feet. Some of them are multi-pitch. Multi-pitch means that your rope isn't long enough to go all the way to the top in one climb. So what that means is you have to, maybe climb 100 feet, get on a ledge, anchor off, reroute your rope, and then climb to the next route. And then you have to put somebody at that point, at that first ledge, so that when people are coming up, they can get off rope and get on the second rope. And that's really fun for team exercises because you really have to work together as a team. You have to trust each other that, you're because you have to be tied off at all times, right? Like you can't take your beaner off. Oh, take it off and clip. And you're 100 feet off the ground. You make a false move and the beaner's not on the rope. You're gone. So yeah, it's you got to have the guy that's in that belay position to be on point, knowing what he's doing, and it's a lot of fun though. I mean, it's that sport in and of itself has helped me grow personally because you have lives, you have people's lives at stake that are up there. Right. They're having fun, and you got to make sure that everything's done. You can't be like just BSing about whatever, and forget to tie somebody off or forget to clip something on. And
yeah, I mean, I'm fucking sweating just listening to you talk about it. For those of you that don't know, I hate heights. So literally, while Andy's sitting there and we're sitting at the booth just kind of chopping it up at the end of RoofCon, like my heart's palpitating. And even as he sits here and explains it again, like I said, I'm sweating, and it's a very uncomfortable thought for me.
There's one I want to do in Canada. It's called Stratosphere. It's a really narrow climb. It's only about 6 or 8 yards wide, but it's 600 feet high. And sometimes it doesn't even get climbed in a season. Sometimes, because it's really hard to get to it, it's out in the wilderness. And what you have to do is you have to ride to one of these isolated train stations. You jump the train, you ride the train up about 15 miles, and you get off the train. They'll let you off the side. They'll let you off the train at the base of this climb, and then you're out there. You're out there in the wilderness either with a gear or a tent or something. And yeah, it's 600 feet high, so it'd take you every bit of a day to climb up that.
I'll leave that to you, and I'll trust that you'll let me know how it goes once you do it. So this might be a stupid question. What about like wolves and shit, like wilderness? Like, is that a thing? Is that a concern? Do you have weapons?
Seen a wolf on the one climb we were up a couple years ago on Lake Superior. We were walking from the ledge. We weren't down on the water. We were up on the up above the climb, and we were coming in, and we're like, man, it looks like a dog out there in the middle of the lake, because the Lake Superior is huge. And we were watching how it's walking. It was actually a wolf. And believe it or not, they're actually more scared of us than we are of them, because he wasn't in a pack. He was just by himself. But as soon as he seen us, he booked it. He just walked right out in the middle of Lake Superior and disappeared as far as we can see. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, everyone always told me that about bees, and there's been 2 times in my life where I've been stung by 15 bees or more simultaneously. So now I'm very skeptical of that logic. I know it makes sense, but I'd be terrified of being caught out there by a wolf. I mean, look it, man. I'll watch from the Ascend Digital Agency Mission Control Podcast Studio. You live stream that shit, and I'll be watching. All right. You'll be like Liam Nielsen in that fucking Taken movie or whatever he is. Where he's like you said specifically that there was one aspect of it that you really, really liked outside of the team building, outside of like the adrenaline. Do you remember what that was when we were talking? That you'd explained that it was never the same.
Oh, yeah. So with like rock climbing and a lot of other sports, it's the same thing. Like, you got this hold and you got this feature and it's all this stuff. But with ice climbing, every year, in fact, every day, it's different because you've got water flow coming off of the top of the apex, off top of the climb, and depending on how cold it is, will change the formation of that ice. If there's a little bit of wind, the speed of the wind or the direction of the wind is going to change how that water splashes down the face and changes. If you get a warm day and there's a little bit of a melt, that sometimes it'll allow it to settle, and so it's kind of cool because you can keep coming back to the same climb year after year after year, and it's different.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it. I was like, imagine having like a golf course that you go to routinely and it's different every fucking time. Like, that'd be amazing. You know, you could buy a membership to that golf course and always golf a different course. Like, how great would that be? And you get to kind of live that on your climbs, going to the same spot and getting something different. That's dope. You got any questions for me? You got anything else you want to add before we wrap up? I know you're super busy before the holidays.
Yeah, in fact, I got my work clothes on here. I was thinking, dang it, I'm supposed to be on this show with Mike, and I got my freaking work shirt. I almost never wear this shirt. I'm always kind of dressed up because I do a lot of sales. But I thought, you know what? Let's be transparent today. I want to be real. I'm out here doing a repair for a customer that not too happy with me right now because since we do liquid applied coatings, it seems like they always want to wait till August or September to, get on schedule. And then if I'm under the gun, right? So it's like, why aren't you done yet? Well, it's been too cold the last week, and you actually got snow on the roof. We can't do any work. And then, I kind of feel like I'm under the gun all the time. So, but my crews are out doing some other jobs, and this particular job just needs to get done. So that's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur or business owner, right? Like sometimes you got to be able to be willing to fall back and be like, got to put my big boy pants on, put my work clothes on today and go out and get dirty. I don't like doing it.
Yeah, man.
I feel like I reached that point where I don't need to do it anymore, but you just got to...
Yeah, I mean, it's humbling though, right? You hop back into it, get your hands dirty. Like, it's fine, no big deal. You can dress up Monday and go sell some more shit. It'll still be there waiting for you. Yeah, no doubt, dude. Hey, man, I'm incredibly great. What's that? Oh yeah, right. Well, the following Monday or the Monday after that, whenever you decide to come back from Miami, I'm incredibly grateful for you stopping by, dude. I'll sit here and talk to you for another 3 hours, but I know you've got shit to do. But we'll circle back in the future. Thank you to the audience, the listeners. We really appreciate you as well. And we're done here, folks. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
If anybody's interested in getting into the liquid applied industry, half the time I run my commercial roofing business, and half the time I train other contractors to get involved in the business. I've got 60 or 70 contractors that I've worked with that I'm coaching all across the country. I wouldn't say all 50 states, but probably in about 20 different states. One great example is a 23-year-old kid that he landed a $275,000 job in Indianapolis last year, and that kid made more money in 5 weeks than he made all year the year before. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity there, and I coached him right along he had a little bit of experience with just flat roofs prior to that, but nothing with coating. And he'd only owned his business for about 9 months when he started working with us. But we helped him with his website and his marketing and his how to estimate the job, how to order the job, and even how to do some of the installation. He went to training and everything. So, but if you're interested, if anybody's interested in doing that, that's one of my loves and passions, is just showing young guys, new guys, how to get started in the industry.
Yeah. So if someone is interested, what's the best way for them to reach out?
My phone number is 231-578-4760. You can get a hold of me on Messenger on Facebook. You can friend me up at Andy Neer. Or I'm also on Instagram on Next Level Roofer.
Hey, do it for the gram, folks.
I have a YouTube channel it's just called Andy Neer, where you can see a lot of the different videos like spray foam and coating and certain things like that. So, but yeah, just reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat.
All right, man. Well, enjoy your holiday. Enjoy the trip to Miami. You'll have to let me know how it went, how you hit them while you're out there. And again, really appreciate you. Appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you for having me.